it's Anna. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you're here to join me. I am going to share with you 2 pieces that I made today. This is a set of ring pours, and they are a commission for somebody's bathroom. She has a lovely spa blue theme going on in her bathroom, and these ring pours turned out so beautiful, and I learned a lot through creating them. So I wanted to make a video to share with you the secrets that I learned to help make a very successful ring pour. I hope this video is helpful to you, and at the end I will include a list of 3 things to avoid doing, 3 mistakes that I have personally made to wreck my ring pour. So stay tuned for that at the end, and for now we will jump into showing you the process of how I created these 2 pieces. The biggest secret I can share is to get the right consistency. So I used 3 different thicknesses of paints. The first cup that I poured down, I'm going to call the pillow paint. This was my thickest. The white around it was my thinnest paint. I'm going to call that the flow extender. It's thin and it's going to allow the pillow paint to slide easily across the canvas. And the third thickness of paint is in between the 2 consistencies. Not as thick as the pillow, but not near as thin as the flow extender. And this is the paint that I'm using to create the design. So the consistency is the key for ring pours. You want the paint to be on the thicker side. When I first tried a ring pour, my paint was way too thin and the rings did not hold their shape as I tilted the canvas. So make the paint thicker than you would for a Dutch pour, for example, when you want the paint to blow out easily. And I do ring pour paint thicker than my flip cup pour paint as well. It's quite thick, but being this thick, you also want to have good paint around it on the canvas for it to be able to flow easily. Otherwise, it's just not gonna. It's hardly gonna move on the canvas. So the white paint you see around my circle is very thin, and it will allow the paint to glide easily across. And my pillow paint underneath, now the cup looks really cool, the colors there. So my pillow paint underneath was the thickest of all, and that is going to hold my design. It's going to hold the rings in place, and it gives them a surface on which to move. And it has to be the thickest because then it's going to stay on the bottom and my paint isn't going to mix with it. It's just going to be a vehicle to move my paint around. The paint recipe I used here is paint, Floetrol, and water, and I will list the ratios in the description. But for the colors, I used half paint, half Floetrol, and a little bit of water. I left it pretty thick. For the pillow paint, I used about half paint and Floetrol, and even less water. So it was very thick, but still fluid. And then for the white, I don't even know if I used Floetrol or not. I don't think it matters for the white. What matters is, it doesn't have to be white, but for the flow extender, what matters is that it's very thin. So just a lot of water with that one. It's just gonna let the paint slide, because the paint doesn't slide across a dry canvas as well. You don't want it to catch on a rough surface. This is only one way to do a ring pour, but I I will point you to the morning pour with Holly. I learned a lot from her from watching her videos, and also a ring pour video from Mixed Media Girl. I learned a lot from that as well, and from Molly's Artistry. And watching those videos along with experimenting on my own has given me these tips that I'm sharing with you. So I will link those channels that I referenced in the description of this video. So the second secret for my ring pour success, which I really wanted it to keep the rings, keep the design. And so this second secret is to slow down. I poured the design very slowly so I could control the rings, and I wanted a lot of fine lines and even rings. So I poured very slowly, and then now I'm tilting very slowly. I don't remember if I sped this video up or if I'm showing you in real time, but either way, it's pretty slow. It's still fun to watch though. It's amazing. It's just mesmerizing to see the paint move across the canvas and just how it's holding its rings. It's just slowly stretching out. It's amazing. But I'm doing it very slowly, and I'm stretching it. I stretched it slowly before even tipping it off any of the sides or corners. But once it starts to go off, then I kept on going and tried to cover the whole canvas. But you can see how the rings are holding their shape even on the side. The lines are beautiful even down the sides. So the color scheme I really like in this one. It turned out so tranquil and calming and muted. The client did not want anything really loud or bright. She just wanted it to go with the tranquil theme, the spa theme of the bathroom. I'm just going to let you watch for a while, and I'll jump in with another secret soon. The third secret is to scrape the edges of the canvas underneath where the paint is dripping, and keep scraping every few minutes for the next hour or so. The paint's going to keep dripping off, and it's pretty thick, and it will pull the design off if it's not scraped. It will slowly keep pulling the design. So just keeping it scraped for the next hour until the paint's just kind of done dripping and more set will help to keep the design, especially on the edges. So here I'm doing the second painting, and I wanted the colors to go together, but not be the same, obviously coordinating but not matching. So this one I'm going to do a little bit more darks and silvers. So again, the middle paint is the thick pillow and with a very thin flow extender around the outside. And I'm just using leftover paint for the pillow and the flow extender because you're not going to see them. It doesn't even matter what color they are. So there I'm torching out the bubbles, the air bubbles. You want to torch before laying down the design and then also after. That way it will dry nice and smooth. So here's a little bit closer view of the paint pouring on. This is so fun to watch. It's just amazing how the paint by itself creates such neat designs. So I'm using a small, very small controlled circular motion as I pour out the paint. And that's creating all of the rings. You can swirl your hand around in any way that you want to do this, do the ring pour. You can do bigger rings or uneven, or you can just kind of wiggle it back and forth and it will make rings as well. So my fourth secret is the colors and the layers. It turned out so cool that I put a contrasting color in here and a metallic. And you'll see at the end the effect of this. The contrasting color with the metallic, it really distinguishes the rings in this ring pour. And it just looked gorgeous. So I will definitely do that again. When I do my next ring pour, is to add in a very dark color and a good strong metallic. I can't wait for you to see the finished result. I also copied what I saw some other artists do and just put my finger under the drip as I took the cup away, because you all know how those drips can mess up the most perfect part of your piece, or when you lean over to blow the paint out and your hair just makes a nice sweep right through the design. So one quick little additional tip in here is when you're doing fluid art, it really helps to have like a headband keeping your hair back, and then to have sound like tight-fitting clothing. Because I just find when I'm leaning over my piece or moving around it, that if I have a loose shirt, it tends to get right into the paint. So I'm speeding this up, I believe, but you can see still how it's pretty slow, that I'm stretching the design in all directions first before I start going off the canvas. It looks really cool to see it close up like that, to see how the rings are keeping their shape as they go off the side. It's incredible. So while we're watching me finish painting this, I'm going to share the 5th secret that I learned. And that is to leave the painting in the spot where you painted it and don't move it until it is dry. Or at least until the design is completely set, you know, like I let my pieces dry about 2 weeks before varnish or resin on top, but it's dry to the touch before then, after a couple days or so, but I would not touch it or move it until then. I've painted a beautiful ring pour in the past, and because the paint is thicker, I moved it after a few hours, or I think the next morning from painting it the night before. And the paint on the top was just almost dry, but the paint below was still wet because it's so thick. And so just in the slight movement of carefully transporting the piece to another drying surface, the top layer cracked or tore. And so you had just some extra lines and tears in the top. So here are the finished pieces, and they are just so beautiful. I was so happy with how they turned out. The rings just kept their shape, and the colors just were exactly what I was going for. And I am just so mesmerized looking into these ring pours, and they're so much fun and just not that hard to do. But I've definitely learned from some failed attempts, and so I hope these secrets are helpful to you in skipping some of those mistakes and just getting right to where you can create something awesome. See what I mean with the dark and the metallic? I'm not sure if you can tell what part is the metallic, but there's a little bit of silvery lines in there, and they're so fine, it's almost like a fairy's hair in the night sky. Yeah, I think you can see the silver there. It just created the most beautiful effects. The contrasting color and the metallic. So I let these dry for a good 2 weeks, and then I am going to put a layer of resin on them. But first I will show you what they look like when the paint's dry, and we'll see if the design stayed the same. Here are the dried results. Absolutely phenomenal, exactly the same as when it was painted, and just gorgeous. I was so happy these turned out. Let me know in the comments what you think of both of these pieces. I would love to hear. And if you've tried ring pours yourself, do you have additional tips or secrets that you can share with us as well? That would be really helpful. So the 3 mistakes to avoid that I've found out by personal experience that I want to share with you are the first one is making your paint too thin. This is the paint for the design for the rings. If it's too thin, it just won't hold its shape. It'll start mixing together and just get muddy, and you won't see the nice ring shapes as you move it around. So that's the first mistake to avoid. Okay, here is the pieces with resin on them now. And if you're interested in finishing your acrylic pours with resin, I have a video tutorial on how to do that. It's a little bit of a process, but it's very simple, and I think it looks really nice. So the second mistake to avoid doing is forgetting to level your canvas. Before you paint, make sure it's level for any acrylic pour, but especially for ring pours. Your design will slide to one side as it dries, and that's just sad. And the third mistake to avoid is throwing away all the runoff paint. There's so much, especially with these pieces I did, like so much dripping extra paint, and that can be used for your pillow paint next time, for your flow extender. Just save it in a cup, put some plastic over the top or a lid over a jar, and that is great paint for using as your base next time. Or if it's a great color, you can use it in the painting too. So there you have it. This was kind of a long video, but I love how these turned out, and I hope it was helpful sharing the tips that I learned. Have a great day, everyone, and please subscribe for lots more inspiration, weekly videos, paint demos. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of this. And I hope to see you in a future video. Take care, everybody. God bless.